while you're stuffing all that turkey in your face on Thanksgiving, you're going to have some meaningful football on TV. And we're going to start up talking about the Battle of the North here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Nothing but facts spoken. It is your team every day, and we are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the #1 sports podcast network. And we thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On NFL. I'm Tony Wiggins. It's Wednesday, so that means my main man, David Harrison from Locked On Commanders, joins me as we navigate ourselves around the National Football League to check out some of the biggest stories of the day with the use of local experts, because that's what we do. Clips from the people that have their finger on the pulse of their respective teams, and we bring all of that to you here each and every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen, and we appreciate the everydayers who join us. And make sure that you tap in everywhere, wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen, so you won't miss an episode like the one that you're watching or listening to right now. That is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline of where we're going to end up and where we're going to start. First, where we're going to end up. Talking about Lamar and Joe battling for pride, because it seems like Baltimore has something to play for, and maybe Cincinnati doesn't, but I think they're going to roll Joe Burrow out there anyway. At least I heard they are. Can Dallas do the unthinkable? By that means go ahead and push Kansas City off the edge of that cliff that they're sitting on in the AFC. They did something unthinkable last week. Maybe they can do it again. We'll see. Turkey Day reckoning up north, though, is where we're going to start. Green Bay early this year was fighting for their life in some games. They put in one of the best performances they have all year. And Detroit's fighting for their life with bad teams, but they actually won. Somebody could be facing their own little cliff in this game if things don't go right for them. David, do you agree or concur that these are some big, nasty, but beautiful games on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the lineup. You know what I mean? I'll be driving home from practice when the Packers and Lions kick off. I'll get to listen to that on my commute home, and then, get to watch the Cowboys get stomped by the Chiefs. And then, with Joe Burrow coming back, with Joe Burrow coming back, that 3-8 Bengals team against that 6-5 Ravens team, that game is a little bit more intriguing. Jamar Chase coming off the suspension and all that stuff. So, yeah, man, I mean, I don't know where my nap is going to fall in there. I'm sure it'll fall in there somewhere. But, for what I'll be conscious for, I can't wait.
I'll just be in a recliner somewhere with a plate sitting on my belly, a perpetual plate sitting on my belly for 6 hours. I tell you what, let's go up to hear what Peter Bukowski has to say about how the Packers are playing right now. We'll come back and talk about that matchup.
If we're going to see the best version of the Packers this weekend, who will be the difference maker beyond, Jordan Love and Micah Parsons?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I know the offense has the ability to do so, but I'm going to say, I want to see a great game from the offensive line. So I'm going to say those 5 guys, I want to see a good game from them. The Vikings, we know they love to blitz, right? Keep Jordan Love clean. Open lanes for Emmanuel Wilson or potentially Josh Jacobs if he plays. Keep the quarterback clean. That's what I want to see on Sunday. I think if that can happen, you're going to allow Jordan Love to wheel and deal and find his receivers and make big plays. So
Okay, he did not wheel and deal against the Vikings, but they won anyway because the defense played well. He will have to wheel and deal this week again. Nothing exotic, none of the Brian Flores type stuff, but there's this guy named Aidan Hutchinson that loves to get after the quarterback. And Jordan Love, to me, is Mr. Inconsistent. And I say that as a dude that covers Trevor Lawrence. But Jordan Love, to me, is the one guy that seems like he's there. He had a great game earlier this season in prime time, but then it's like you don't know who's going to really show up.
Yeah, look, I mean, Kelvin Shepard, first-year defense coordinator for the Detroit Lions, like, even though he's a first-year DC, man, they always save some of their best stuff for their division rivals, right? Especially the teams that are kind of at the top of the division. And I know the Packers aren't there right now. I know the Bears are sitting on top of that. But, if the Lions are going to take that division, if they're going to jump up, they got to get through the Green Bay Packers. They got to make Jordan Love look flustered. They got to trick him into some things. So don't sleep on the mind of a young defensive coordinator who's been around this matchup. He's been around this rivalry. He knows this Packers team, all these things. And, I just like on paper anyway, I just like what the Lions have over the Green Bay Packers. I survived Jameer Gibbs last weekend somehow in my fantasy league. I don't know if the Green Bay Packers can survive Jameer Gibbs and this Detroit Lions offense this weekend.
No, I don't know either. He's a big-time player, but they got some big-time players on that defense, though. Edgerrin Cooper, of course, Michael Parsons. They really can get after it. And Jared Goff isn't necessarily the most nimble and fleet of foot quarterback. He might have to be this weekend. Speaking of those Lions, they got a lot at stake too, man. And Jared Goff is, he has to play better, but they got a whole bunch of other things that they need to get done. Jameer Gibbs is one of them, and they ain't got to start him. All they got to do is just give him a uniform and show him where the field is, and he seems like he gets it done. Here's my man, Matt Derry.
Sets a Lions franchise record today for a running back. 264 yards from scrimmage is a record. 219 on the ground, 45 through the air, including catching 11 passes. I mean, Jameer Gibbs today had 26 touches of the football. And you watch the speed and how he outruns everybody. The footwork down the sideline, even on the 3-yard touchdown, the way that he was able to reach with his left hand, everybody saw it, it was right in front of us, past the pylon. He's special. Find me a better running back in the NFL right now.
You ain't gonna get no argument out of me, Matt Derry. That dude is truly, truly special, and he is an angle breaker. There's no angle when he gets loose. You better be standing in front of him, and then you better be prayed up and have all of your good books in all of your pockets because he's going to make you look sick.
Yeah, you better have those ankles stretched and rotated and warmed up or spatted or whatever you need, man, whatever you need to keep those ankles attached to your body because he's going to do damage. And then, you got David Montgomery coming right behind him, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, listen.
Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams, listen, I've taken some flack on this program, Wig, for my commentary about Jared Goff, but I'm just going to double down a little bit. The Detroit Lions offense is only limited by Jared Goff, unfortunately. But
and I know the dude that's been doing it too, because he tells me every week. Shout out to you. Hey, I forgot your name, but he hit me up every week and say, "Yeah, you know what he calls you? Your boy." He said, "Yeah, your boy." I mean, this and your boy. Okay.
Listen, but I'm not wrong. Like there's, listen, I'm not saying that Jared Goff is gonna tank this team or nothing like that. But I just, I don't want to turn this into a Jared Goff bashing segment. But the Detroit Lions offense with a little bit of a better, quarterback behind the wheel could be, arguably the best in the league because they are arguably one of the best in the league with Jared Goff. But that being said, the whole point of the conversation is, yeah, the Packers for what they do have on defense, the Lions have enough to counter it and more.
Yeah, they do. And by the way, David ain't wrong. I'm gonna tell you what this is all about, right? We love our listeners, but the dude's been a good sport. Yeah. All we said was, hey, man, they might have a little slippage. Is Dan Campbell calling plays? Did he take the play calling over David?
Yep.
That's what we were talking about. We were talking about the little slippage when you lose your coordinators and they don't protect quite as well as they did. Maybe Frank Ragnow's absence has a little bit to do with that. Ain't that right, David? Ain't that what we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we don't be hating, man. Sometimes it comes out as hate when it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to bro, man, who be giving me a hard time. And he does it in good faith. We love our listeners here. He's an everyday, and we really, really do appreciate him. We're going to talk about some more games. Could the Dallas Cowboys do the unthinkable? Somebody say, well, they did that last week when they came back from 21-0 against the vaunted Vic Fangio and the Philadelphia Eagles and actually won and punked Philly with their new defense. If they do it again, though, this will be them. First of all, they'll be pushing the Chiefs off the cliff. But I think now people will really start believing in Dallas because they'll say they beat who? And then they turned around and beat who? We're going to discuss exactly who we're talking about in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, moving and grooving here on Locked On NFL, where it is your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen. Some big games coming up. We're kind of doing a quick preview of some games. The Dallas Cowboys. I know you said Dallas going to get their skull busted in. You ain't quite say that, but that's what I heard. All I heard was you say they're going to get skull drugged and get their head bashed in here. But they did something that was super, super impressive. And the way that they did it, it kind of blew me away and amazed me. You can never, ever go wrong when you invest in your offensive line, especially with first-round draft picks that can really, really play. There's no way you're going to be in a division against Jaylen Carter at this stage of his career and not think that you have to do something. Dallas went out and fortified their offensive line with Mr. Booker, right? And I want to say his first name, but the only thing is they got like 3 or 4 dudes on the offensive line that all got the same first name. So we just got to call him Mr. Booker. Here's what the guys from Locked On Cowboys said about him, and then we'll talk about who he has to do this against again this week.
Go watch Tyler Booker versus Jaylen Carter. If you expected to see Tyler Booker win as many of his reps against Jaylen Carter as he did, then you must be a soothsayer or something, or Tyler Booker's mother potentially. Like, it was crazy how much he was able to take care of a guy that is, an all-pro defensive tackle. The Cowboys got plays from almost all their big players except for CeeDee Lamb. And that's what was amazing is without CeeDee Lamb contributing and having a huge day, you were able to get what you needed out of Pickens. You were able to get what you needed out of Dak. You were able to get what you needed out of Javonte Williams. And then ultimately Ferguson, who didn't start out great, I think Ferguson had some really great plays at key moments when you needed him. And this offense was able to thrive and score when you needed to.
Philadelphia's problem is their offense and their dumb turnovers and their lack of creativity. But they got out to a 21-0 lead. Dallas did everything that they had to do to win that game, and we got to give them credit. You think they can do the unthinkable and beat the other team that has been the boogeyman for so long in the NFL?
My thing about it is this, and I was tongue-in-cheek when I said they were going to get stomped or whatever, but my thing about it is this. So to say the Dallas Cowboys beating the Philadelphia Eagles was unthinkable, I would push back on. The reason I'm not going to push back on it is because of that 21-point lead that they had to undo, 21-point deficit the Cowboys had to undo, because I would never think that, I don't care who the opponent is, I would never think that the Dallas Cowboys would be able to overcome a 21-point deficit this year against any team. I know their offense is explosive, but if they're already down 21, like, you just figure they're going to give up 42. So that's part of it. Now part of it where I still kind of want to push back is this is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know they're incredibly talented. I know they're one of the better teams on paper in the NFL, but this team is not in sync, right? This team is not lockstep. This team is not together. This team is not a brotherhood. Whatever cliche you want to use, this team is not it. So the Kansas City Chiefs are, right? Like, no matter what, even when the Kansas City Chiefs are struggling, even when they're 6-5 and all this other stuff, like, it's all injuries, right? When they're on the field, this team plays together. Like, when I watched that Colts game last weekend, I watched the Chiefs-Colts game, even when the Colts were in the lead, even when the Colts were looking like they might have an opportunity to close it out, I was sitting there, I was like, the Chiefs are going to win this game. Like, just watching the flow of the game, Chiefs are going to win this game. You know what I mean? Because the Chiefs are a different animal. The Dallas Cowboys, I just don't see how their defense, like the difference between the Chiefs and the Eagles is when the Chiefs put 21 points on you, they're not going to stop.
No, they
You know
got
what I mean?
14 more. They got at least 14 more. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to give you opportunities to get back in this game. I mean, you know, every losing team can say this to a certain extent, but let's be honest, the Philadelphia Eagles gave that game away to the Dallas Cowboys as much as the Dallas Cowboys came back and won that game away. I mean, when's the last time you saw Saquon Barkley do what he did? You know, you don't see teams, championship caliber teams, make mistakes on punt returns the way that they did in that moment. Like, give praise to that Cowboys rookie. Give praise to George Pickens. Give praise to all these guys. They took advantage of the opportunity. Don't get me wrong, but the Eagles were the ones who put the opportunity on the table, right? Like when the turkey is sitting on the plate, you don't praise the dude that grabs a leg for the dinner. You know what I mean? You praise the person that put the turkey on the plate. The Eagles served it up. I'm glad the Cowboys ate it, but don't forget the Eagles served it up. The Chiefs are not going to do that.
No, they're not going to do it. I don't think they're going to get behind 21-0 in the first place. Or they might jump ahead of Dallas 21-0. But if they get ahead 21-0, oh, you can count on Andy Reid.
Take your nap. Take your nap. Wake up for Bengals Ravens.
He's going to score first downs and run Harrison Butker out there. By the way, this is a real good kicking matchup, too. I know we sit here and talk about, but these might be the two best kickers in the league. Shout out to Cam Little, my boy down in Jacksonville, that gets it done, too. But these dudes can make this. This is like Justin Tucker versus Justin Tucker. I don't know why I mentioned that fool, but still, the old school Justin Tucker, right? But let me talk about the Chiefs, man, and let's listen to KC. This was something that this ain't even a new clip. This was last week. This is when they were desperate. They lost that game against the Colts. They would have been gone. I asked Kevin Ostracker yesterday. He's a Ravens. I could have asked Joe Marino too. You think they're dead? And they'll be like, man, are you kidding me? I need to see a body. Ostracker almost said, you got to bring the head in a bag before I believe that they're dead, because the Chiefs have terrorized them more than they've terrorized anybody. Here's what KC's Locked On Chiefs folks think about. This was before they won against Indy now, but this is echoed again with the game this weekend.
If they lose one more game, they have an easy chance of not even making the playoffs. So division, I think, is out the window at this point. Even making the playoffs is going to be a stretch, because you have to win against the Colts. You have to win against the Broncos again. You have to play the Chargers, who, they got trounced today, but you have at least a couple of games where you feel like they're not going to be favorites, or they shouldn't be favorites, especially with the way they played today.
Does 10-7 get you in if you're KC? And we can say that about another team. We're going to talk about it a little bit. 10-7. Do you make it at 10-7?
I mean, I think so. I think you at least have a shot, right? And you at least believe that you had that opportunity. It's going to depend on some other things obviously falling into place. But I think, anytime you have double-digit wins in the NFL, you're at least in the mix for that postseason race.
Yeah. So you got two teams from the AFC East. I think two from the AFC South. I think Jacksonville is going to be one of them. That's just the way I feel. It's either going to be Jacksonville winning the division and the Colts falling off and Houston catching up, or Houston being a little bit too late and the Colts holding on, and some form of that. The problem is the West, because you got to see what the Chargers do. I think Denver's a shoe-in and probably going to fight for home field, obviously. But then it comes down to KC and whoever that other team is in the South. I'm going to mention one more team, and that's the Bengals. And the reason why I'm going to mention the Bengals as a wild card, because they got 7 losses. They get Joe Burrow back. The defense played better last week. They might run some games off, and then it comes down to all of these weird tie-breaking scenarios. But they can't. The Chiefs can't end up even with Jacksonville because they lost head-to-head. The Chargers can't end up even with Jacksonville because they lost head-to-head. So that gets interesting. It gets real interesting if all of them end up tied together, and then the process goes to something else in a 3-way tie. So we'll just see how that works out. But I tell you what, we got another game. It's a rivalry between those Bengals I mentioned and Baltimore. Now, you got one quarterback who hasn't been healthy, who's coming back, in Joe Burrow, and one who's back, but he's not healthy, in Lamar. It's still a big game for both of those teams because Pittsburgh is sandwiched right between them, and they're hoping to try to hang on too. We'll preview that as we get to the third and final segment here of Locked On NFL. All right, today's show sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. If you're into in-game parlays, same game parlays, I tell you what, Cooper Flag is really filling out that stat sheet. So guess what? When you go to FanDuel, keep that in mind when you do your same game parlays. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And this is Locked On NFL on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. We appreciate you making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. All right, Lamar and Joe, it's a battle for pride. These teams are going to go hard, man. I recall a game a few years back when Lamar's replacement was at quarterback, tried to jump over the line at the goal line, ball comes out, and one of the defensive linemen, it might have been Hendrickson or somebody, he ran it all the way back for a touchdown, and I'll never forget these games. We haven't seen Joe Burrow in a while. That's because they can't protect him. Baltimore hasn't necessarily been the team that's best at sacking the quarterback, but it's getting a little bit better. Joe Burrow might make the difference. Here's the guys from Locked On Bengals talking about Cincinnati and where they are.
Because the Bengals defense in this game was the average-looking defense that we've been asking for all year. Compared to the baseline that we've seen from them all year, they were good. This was their best performance by EPA per play all year, and they did it against the best offense they've faced in quite a while.
Yep, they held their own. They did everything that you needed them to do. They had the pick six. They forced the turnover. They had the splash plays in the really points off the board type of plays where you hold the Patriots to 3 late in the game. You have a goal line stand with Geno Stone stepping up big.
There you go. So they played against a team that's tied right now with the best record in the AFC to a stalemate without Joe Burrow. Will probably be without T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson this week. But Jamar Chase has apologized and served his 1-game suspension for spitting on Jalen Ramsey, a real Bush League move. He wouldn't have no teeth in his mouth if it was me, but still, that's just what it is. He apologized, give him a chance to come back, him and Burrow back together. Do you think they could pull this off against Baltimore?
I think they could. I mean, I think they certainly could, especially, I mean, Baltimore, they've got their own problems that they're dealing with and all those things. I mean, I think, on paper still, I think you think that the Ravens have the matchup and, never underestimate their ability to kind of get things rolling against a division rival. But you love the fact that, Jamar's coming back with a little bit of something to prove. Joe's coming back and obviously he wants to kind of get things going right, and then you're doing it in the middle of a division that is up for grabs, maybe not as much for the Bengals themselves, but at least put yourself and inject yourself into the conversation and then see what happens and how the cards fall. And if you go on a run, man, I mean, never say never. Stranger things have happened. We saw the Bengals nearly pull this off last year. They could do it again.
They can. If they go on a little run now, they'll end up 10-7, and they'll be right there in the mix with all of those other teams. And then we'll have to if that happens, they will be the team that nobody wants to play, especially if they get healthy at the wide. It'll be like Dallas. They'll be like just like that, but they'll just be an AFC version of the Dallas Cowboys. Great quarterback, 2 wide receivers, and a really don't give a dang attitude because the Bengals have always kind of had that way. And then, you know what? They'll probably look at us. Joe and Jake will probably look at us and be like, y'all been talking about us all year, joking. We made the playoffs. But I ain't got no problem.
Hey, just because they made the playoffs doesn't mean the organization is not dumb.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. All right, Baltimore. They got their quarterback back, but he ain't quite the same as he's been this whole time. Their defense has improved a little bit too. Here's Locked On Ravens giving you a little bit of a temperature check on Baltimore before Thursday's games.
Exciting times with the Ravens on a 5-game win streak. A lot to tip your cap to them on, and especially getting out of that 1-5 rut, which, a lot of people didn't believe that they could. If they were at 1-6, I would have said, all right, you're done. But luckily they never got to that point, and they've won 5 straight games, which is absolutely unbelievable. But Sam, Lamar Jackson, something just looks off, it feels like, with him. The him missing the month with the hamstring, coming back. He's been on the injury report with all types of injuries over the last handful of weeks, and that did not change on Monday as a new injury has popped up for Lamar Jackson, this time a toe injury.
Toes can be nasty. I tell you what, it can be even worse. When he stands in the pocket, why is he trying to prove something? Why don't he just run the ball? When he runs the ball, he can't play from the pocket. He might not have a choice for this stretch run because his hamstring's messed up.
I mean, look, Lamar is never going to make everybody happy. Lamar is going to go down as arguably one of the most nitpicked quarterbacks in NFL history, and I don't understand why people can't just accept that the man is good at the game of football. But something that I've always said about Lamar Jackson, as much as good as I think he is that he is a quarterback that relies on his athleticism. So when that athleticism goes away, whether it's the defense scheming it away, whether it's injury, or whether it eventually is age, it's going to be interesting because I don't know if Lamar has enough growth in him as a pocket passer to remain one of those guys. And that's kind of where you're at right now, right? And it's kind of an early glimpse, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, of what's to come in that situation. And so that's why, even though on paper, you said with the names and the Madden ratings and all that stuff, it seems like a kind of a slam dunk situation. It's not that much of a slam dunk situation.
No, it's not. And where I stand with it is, and I agree with your sentiment, because this isn't about what you think he is. This is about what the opponent thinks he is. If he can't run, whether it's because of injury or age, they are going to play him differently. When you go in a game against Lamar, you talk about you ain't got to run play action. You don't. The linebackers and the safeties are already scared, and the defensive ends are already afraid to go past his armpits. Mm-hmm. That changes. And if he's not used to playing against people that have implemented that change, like, say, a Phillip Rivers or somebody who's just really a stationary target, he won't be used to seeing that as often as those other quarterbacks. Give me about a minute to tell us what's going on with Jaden Daniels, man.
Yeah, so I mean, Jaden, 3 injuries this year. He had the knee injury early in the season, had the hamstring in the middle part of the season, and then the dislocated elbow suffered against the Seattle Seahawks. He's on his way back. They didn't put him on IR. This weekend would be the 3rd game that he'll miss. He's back at practice this week. The expectation, however, is that he's not going to play on Sunday Night Football against the Denver Broncos. But, when you hear about a quarterback being injured, it's kind of like Joe Burrow, right? Like he's practicing, he's getting work in, but he might not play this weekend. That typically means next weekend he's much more likely to play. So against the Minnesota Vikings week 14, that's where I'm expecting him to come back. However, this weekend, look, just from a matchup standpoint, Terry McLaurin, I give it like a 40% chance he comes back, but still there's a chance there. Will Harris, the safety on the other side of the ball, I think he comes back this weekend. If they can get both those guys back, I think they give the Broncos a run for their money. And when we talk about these Thanksgiving games, that gives the Chiefs the Chiefs would love to see the Broncos fall to the Commanders on Sunday night.
Absolutely. I want y'all to enjoy Turkey Day because we're definitely going to enjoy it here on Locked On NFL. Safe travels to everyone traveling, including myself. I gave myself a little safe travels day. But no, make sure you check out Locked On NFL on Thanksgiving morning with my main man, Tyler Rowland, and then I'll slide myself through also and give you an analysis with Chris Carter in the middle of the day in the barbershop. Until then, you guys take care. We don't take you for granted. A little bit, about 28 and a half minutes. Oh, man, that was good. It went fast. But guess what? Shout out to y'all for joining us every day here on the #1 Sports Podcast Network.